Hi everyone, welcome to our homeschool table. My name is Jerilyn. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3 kids ages 11, 4, and 2, and this is our 7th year homeschooling. So today I'm going to be sharing a little update about how October went, but also how we wrapped up our first term already. Okay, so first, I have been planning a lot differently this year than I have in the past. In the past, I've always kept a planner where I write out all of our kind of weekly checklist type of plans in my planner. And I've always done it just with a pen and highlighters and things like that. And I did the same for this year. I got a really nice planner from Wendy over at Plan Prep Pray. It's beautiful. I really like it. It's exactly what I would have wanted in a planner, but I'm just not using it. And I have come up with a couple of other types of planning pages that really help me and really help me to minimize the amount of weekly planning that I'm doing. Last week, I shared a video all about my weekly planning and how quick it goes. And so go back and watch that video if you haven't already to see kind of more in depth about what I'm doing. But I have my term kind of checklist. This is a format that Ambleside Online uses where they have all of the term weeks across the top. Theirs are 12-week terms. Mine are 9 or 10-week terms. Then on the left side, there are all the subjects and kind of what is going to be happening during each of the weeks. And this is a very flexible plan, but it helps me to kind of see where I'm at in the course of the term and kind of if we're on track, if you want to say that. And so I just go through at the end of each week and highlight what we got done and what we still need to kind of bump over for the next week. So this has been really working well. This is an idea that I had gotten from Brittany over at Deeply Rooted Home. I will link to her channel and to this video where she shared about this. But basically, all of the purple sections are for everybody. All of the green sections are for my daughter, and then all of the dark blue sections are for my son. And I put them in the order of kind of how we flow our day. So there's no times or anything like that, but this just helps me to kind of see what's next on our list and make sure it gets marked off. We did have a little bit of sickness this week. My son wasn't feeling good on Tuesday, but for the most part, we got everything done that I kind of wanted to. We did do a little bit less this week towards the end of the week because honestly, we had kind of wrapped up most of the stuff that we were working on for this term. And then next week, the first week of November, we are going to be taking that full week off. So I didn't really worry about starting anything new. So that's why we kind of tapered off at the end of the week. But I'm really excited about this because it's laminated and I can just run it under the water and wipe it off. And then it'll be all set to go for when we come back to school week after next. Okay, so let me show you a couple of the things that I have done that are really helpful for me because I'm a very visual person. I have this mom's homeschool routine chart, and I will put a picture of it on the screen for you so you can kind of see it a little bit better. But it just helps me to kind of know visually what I still need to work on with my daughter, with my son, and with everybody all together. So that's been really helpful. I also made a really similar one for my son, and I'll put a picture of this up as well because it's helpful for him to see what I expect as far as him to be kind of working on each day. And even if we don't get it all done, it's nice for him to have a visual. They have pictures and words, and this is how I started out a weekly checklist for my daughter back when she was younger. So it didn't look exactly like this, but it looked pretty similar. So that's been really helping for us to get some things done. But I will say that the hardest thing for me to get done every day is my son's work. And I think that's because I am so focused on getting all of this done with my older daughter that he just kind of gets whatever's left over. And I know that I need to do better about that and to incorporate him more. Until recently, it has been pretty nice outside, which is part of why I wasn't too worried about his schoolwork. I do kind of let him take the lead as far as whether or not he wants to do school right then. And so if we are doing something else, I just let him and go play. But now we are heading into the rainier part of the year. And so I know he'll be inside a lot more and he won't have that desire to want to go outside quite as much. So I will probably wind up being able to work with him a little bit more. And even today, which is a Saturday, he wanted to do some school when we were at the table having lunch. So sometimes I just kind of squeeze him into pockets where he is initiating it and where he wants to do it, because that's going to be where he learns the best anyway. So that's kind of how we're doing it, and we're just kind of rolling with it. I haven't gotten nearly as many letters done with All About Reading as I had hoped to by this point, but it'll be fine, and he'll still learn how to read. So this is my mom binder. I've shown it in some videos in the past. I just have a calendar here at the front. And one thing that I do really want to mention and point out, in my Sunlight section, we are using History Bible Literature Level F this year, which is Eastern Hemisphere. That is going really, really well. And I'm actually going to do a video specifically about weeks 1 through 9 of Sunlight, because I am really liking that level. And I've always heard everybody say that level F is one of their favorites. So they were not wrong about that. But one little thing that has really helped streamline, I guess you might say, our history, Bible, and literature time is the fact that I went ahead and made copies of the first page of each week. In a typical Sunlight History Bible Literature program, they have lots of teacher's notes. I don't know if you can see it very well, but there are lots of teacher's notes behind each week spread. So what I did is I just made a photocopy of the front page. So week 1, and then week 2, and so forth. So that really helps me because I can write on it and highlight the different parts that are for me and for my daughter. A couple weeks in, my daughter decided she didn't want her own sheet. So instead, I do hers in green and mine in purple, so that it just helps me kind of see the different parts and what we need to do. Also, ever since I started Sunlight, I have a really hard time writing on the instructor's guide. I don't know why. I don't like writing on them, which you're supposed to write on them. But since I'm going to probably use them again with my younger kids, I don't really want them to be marked up and yucky looking. So instead, I just make these copies. I made the full 9 weeks packet, and it just kind of helps me to stay on track and check things off. I really like to check off boxes. So that is working really well for us. And I plan to continue making a packet like that for the next 9 weeks during my planning week. Now, speaking of my planning week, that's going to be next week, the first full week of November. And I will be sharing kind of some of my planning in some videos coming up. So definitely subscribe and stay tuned for that. But I'm definitely going to keep that on my list of priorities, is to make the packets for Sunlight. Okay. Another thing that's going really well is my daughter's weekly checklist, and she is doing most of her independent work first thing in the morning. She usually gets up anywhere between 8:30 and 9, and then she gets started with her schoolwork somewhere after 9:30 usually, because she works on her chores after she gets breakfast and ready for the day and all that stuff. So that's going really well. She does everything very independently in the morning, things like her Bible reading, her Awana scripture memory, and her Latin flashcards, and a little bit of copy work. It's like one phrase a day of Latin. She does her math speed drills and math flashcards by herself, and she does typing 2 days a week. And then right at the end of that, she does her Sunlight Reader. And that normally takes her anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes, just depending on the book and the assignment, but it's usually around 3 chapters per day. She is a very fast reader because she is an avid reader, and um, so she gets her reading done really quickly. And then the reason why I have her do her reader then is because later on when we are together doing our history part, that's when she'll tell me about the book instead of waiting till the next day. So that is all going really well. We also are getting together with our friends on Mondays for Science and Coffee, which is also going really well. I'll put a couple pictures in here if I can find some. And the girls have made a kind of globe representation. It was a shape of a balloon, so it's not perfectly round. They add things little bit by little bit. So that's going really well. The only thing that we are not really caught up on at the end of the term now is our On Mission magazine. I'll put a picture of it over here. We're working on Vietnam right now, and we really have been enjoying that. It's just that at the beginning of the term, I wasn't going quite as fast as we kind of finished the term with, and so we're not quite done yet. I like to do it in little chunks, not like a full spread every single day. But for the next week that we have off, I do plan to work on finishing that up, our only real school thing to do next week. And the nice part about the very end of the book is it's all about like what it's like to live in that country. And so it has a lot of videos in their, they make a private playlist that you get access to. And so there are lots of videos that we can watch that really make everything kind of come together, and the kids are able to kind of visualize what it would be like to live in that country. So I'm really liking that. So if you're interested in geography through a magazine style like that, then go ahead and check out my link below. I'll leave it in the description box for you. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about math. Early on in our school year, we decided to try changing math to after lunch instead of earlier on in the day. And the reason for that is because we kind of butt heads a little bit when it comes to math. I don't know if you have subjects like that, but we definitely have that problem with math and sometimes language arts too. Although the language arts that we're using right now, we don't seem to have any problem with, which I'm really glad about. Anyway, so we have started doing math after lunch, and my daughter is just finished up with Math 4 from Christian Light Education. I've done some recent videos about Christian Light Math 5, and so check those out if you haven't seen those already. I'll link them down below for you. But she's really excited to be finished up with Math 4 and now starting Math 5. Math 5 is basically the same as what Math 4 was. We still have our daily like lesson together part. Sometimes when she looks at them, she is able to just figure out what to do and just does it. And we don't even have to necessarily meet one-on-one to do any math. But other days she definitely wants help. And so she'll just let me know that she's going to work on the independent part and then come back and work with me on the new concept during our math time. So we did the 4th week of October start adding back in some Math UC. We had left off about 12 lessons out of 30 into the Epsilon level of Math UC last year. And we had just stopped basically using that program altogether once we started Christian Light Education Math. And I had kind of meant to incorporate it a little bit throughout the spring, but to be really honest, that's a time of year when I'm not wanting to do anything extra. I'm just wanting to get through the daily things. So I decided now that we've kind of gotten into a really good school routine this year, I decided to go ahead and try incorporating some Math UC lessons again. So we did. We started 2 weeks ago, and we started the 13th lesson. So we watched the video on the first day. We did most of those problems from the A practice page together on a whiteboard, and she really liked that. Whatever it was about factor trees. or repeated division. And she thought it was fun for, I think, the first time in a long time. So that was really nice. And so basically what I did is I decided to take the 6 lessons of a Matthew C week or lesson and do 3 in the first week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because those are our more like normal days of school. And then the second week, I did the next 3, D, E, and F. And that worked really, really well. And so she was even happy about it and asking if we could do it again. So like I said before, we're taking this next week off, but then when we come back, my plan is to start the next lesson, lesson 14. There are 30 total, so I don't know if we will get through all of them by the end of the school year, but I am really encouraged because I really like Matthew C and I really like the way that they teach math. I'm really liking using both. So we're going to see how it goes. You can hear more updates about that in the coming months and terms, but for now, we are going to be doing both. With learning language arts through literature, we're using the Purple Book, and that's going, again, really well. It's very simple and straightforward. There's copy work, spelling practice, sometimes reading and answering questions. Recently, she's been doing a little bit more writing and developing paragraphs and things like that. So that's all going really well. We just finished lesson 25, and there are 36 total. We've already done the book studies over the summer, so now we're just going to keep going 1 lesson a week until we finish, probably in January, maybe early February, depending on how many weeks we take off. So that is really exciting. And I think that actually brings us to the end. I did decide to incorporate a little bit of poetry on Fridays that I wasn't originally putting on my plan. And I have the Ambleside Online Poetry Anthology from, I believe, level 5. And we just never finished it last year. So we're continuing on with that. My daughter likes to listen to those once in a while. We're also doing Prima Latina Latin from Memoria Press. And we haven't gotten quite as far as I had hoped at this point, but she still practices the flashcards and is really enjoying those. So we are going to continue, and I find it really interesting, although I'm not practicing as much as she is. And so I don't know, I probably need to get better at that. If you are still here, thank you so much for continuing to listen to my ramble about how things are going in our homeschool. It's all going really well. In fact, I would say this is probably the best start to the school year that we've ever really had. I don't know if it's because we did so much over the summer. I was considering us a little bit more of a year-round homeschool this year, which was our first year doing that. And so I kind of feel like maybe that helped us to get back on our feet when we did restart a more typical school schedule, in mid-August and early September. So I don't know. I think we're going to keep going this route and see how next year goes. And I think that every year has just gotten better and better. Even though things get harder and more challenging and there's more children added now into our homeschool, I do think that it is going really well, and I'm really glad about that. I still think that this year my favorite subject is history, and it has been for a while now. I really like all of the books. There are a couple of books that we have skipped in our Sunlight program, but for the most part, we're really enjoying it, and I'm learning a lot about Asia and just the countries and their history and things like that. So I think it's fun to kind of learn along with my daughter. So with that, I was thinking that today's emoji would be something to do with your favorite subject to teach. So for me, I would put something history related or a globe, something like that down in the comments below. So if you want to go ahead and leave your favorite subject and an emoji for that. If you have any questions or comments about how our homeschool life is going this year, please don't forget to put those down below. I love reading your comments and chatting with you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today at our homeschool table. I hope that you will subscribe and stick around here, and we'll see you next time.